Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Learn How with Pacific Angler. Today we're going to look at a simple one. We're going to look at how to build a leader to go off a sink tip. Now this can be used for steelheading. It's where I guided with it the most, as well as any of your salmon fishing in your local rivers where you're going to be running a sink tip. Now we see this done wrong a number of ways. The first one is a lot of guys will try to put a standard tapered leader off of a sink tip. Now, if we're fishing very shallow with maybe a clear tip, this isn't wrong per se, but if we're trying to get deep and we're fishing a 9-10 foot leader, you have a problem where the sink tip gets down, but then the leader floats up. And obviously that defeats the purpose of our sink tip. So I'm going to walk you guys through today how I built leaders for guiding for steelhead. And it's pretty simple, but there are some tricks that we can do to make it easier and more effective. First off, what material do we use? Every guide, basically from California to Alaska, fishes one thing, and that's Maxima. Maxima is cost effective, it's tough, it's durable, it can run over a bunch of rocks, it can snap into your back cast, and it's going to hold up when you finally do hook up with the fish you want. So Maxima is a go-to. There are other brands out there that have similar properties, stiff, very durable, but if it ain't broke, let's not fix it. So I use Maxima, and we want to go short. We don't want to have a super long leader that is going to get out of the zone when we have that sink tip sinking. And so usually we recommend between 4 and 6 feet. And so all we're going to do is we're going to start off with 12-pound Maxima like I hear in a small service spool, and I'm going to give myself an arm length of it. That's sort of where we like to start. Now, a lot of guides are just going to use straight 12-pound Maxima. They might extend it out to sort of a little breast to hand, but if we want to spend some time and make this a little bit better, we're going to give it a little bit of a butt section. That's going to help it turn over when we cast. And the go-to is 15 or 20-pound Maxima. Now I'm just going to use about 2 feet of that really short chunk, and I'm going to either surgeon's knot or blood knot this together. When I tie my knots, I'm always going to give them a nice lick before I tie them down. That's pretty standard. Make sure they come in evenly. And then make sure we test our knot. This is something that I can pull on really hard. I see a lot of anglers test their knots with just a weak little pull. I want to pull on it really firmly and then watch as that knot binds down. If I see any movement once I've sort of got it latched in, I'll cut this off and do it again. So I'll trim my tag ends. I want them relatively short so we don't have snags. So just over breast to hand, so about, I don't know, 5 feet, 4 feet, that's sort of in the realm. This heavy butt section is going to help it turn over just a little bit better. Now we're not done there. We're going to add a loop to this end of it because almost all sink tips nowadays have a loop on it. If you saw my earlier video about how to make a custom loop, if you have a line that doesn't, build yourself one, come down to the shop, have us do it for you. But we're going to do a loop here, and this is where a lot of guides debate on what is best. We can do a very simple surgeon's loop, which is just making a bunny ear and then tying 2 overhand knots with the bunny ear. Now, this knot's going to work, and when your hands are cold, this one's relatively fast and easy, but it does come with a warning. This knot usually fails. Say we snag a rock and we're breaking this off. It usually fails here, and that forces you to have to retie the leader again. A better knot is a perfection loop. And the perfection loop is what I use for most of my guiding. It's simple, it's fast, it's relatively strong, it lays clean and straight. So I'm going to do that now. Give it a lick, give it a firm pull, and then look closely, make sure it binds in, and then cut your tag end. Now, this is where the debate comes in. There are some guides that will make this loop differently depending on what they're doing, especially guys that are trying to tackle Chinook, larger species, steelhead in areas that are known for really big steelhead. And there is a knot that I like to use for maximum durability, which is a figure 8 knot. But I'm going to make a loop. I'm gonna wrap it back over my thumb, and then I'm gonna bring that around and through. And this knot, though it is a little bit chunkier, it's gonna make a figure 8 there and tighten down. Though this knot is a little bit chunkier, maybe not as straight in line, we do find this knot is stronger. If I were doing this for fishing purposes, I would try to make this figure 8 as small as possible. So when you guys are looking this up or practicing some, try these different knots. Find out what's comfortable for you. The perfection loop, I think, is the best for ease and fishability. But if you were in one of those situations where big fish were involved, the figure 8 I do find is stronger. And that good old surgeon's knot, when your hands are freezing cold and you're trying to do this quick, is going to work great as well. Now, on the other end, we're going to tie our fly. So this is also something that a lot of guides will do differently. A lot of anglers that know what they're trying to achieve with a swung fly or sink tip presentation. 9 times out of 10, you want your fly to move and swim in the water. And so using a knot that's just tied straight to the eye of the fly is going to impede that motion just a little bit. And so tying a loop knot where it can move freely is a really big benefit. How we tie a loop knot is quite straightforward. So we just have an overhand sitting there in the line. We're going to feed it through the fly. We're going to go back through that overhand that I've just built. And we're going to cinch it right down close. Now this is the key. We want to make this small. If this knot is huge and obnoxious, it's not ideal. I mean, the fish might see it, it's just not going to fish well. So I want this loop really small, and to do that I'm going to get that open loop really small, and then I'm going to pinch it and pretend like it's not there. Then I'm just going to wrap like I would a normal fisherman's knot. 5 wraps is usually good. And then I'm going to go back through that overhand knot that I've made. Now here's the key. When we cinch this down, if I just pull normally, it's going to make that loop get bigger and bigger and bigger. And again, I'm going to try to avoid having a big loop off the front of my fly. I'm going to give it a lick, and I'm going to pull down with the tag end. So pulling more with it, it's going to make that loop smaller and smaller. And then when I do get close and it's worried about doubling over, I'm just going to cinch that knot down with my fingers before it binds in. This is making that knot as small as I can make it. Then we're going to cinch it down, and just like again with any knot, we're going to test it extremely firmly, looking for any movement, anything funny happening with that knot, any slippage, this tag end sort of wiggling and going back into the knot. I'm going to cut it off and tie it again. It may take you 3 minutes to tie a knot, even if you're slow. It could take you hours to catch that fish, and there's nothing worse than having a knot blow up when you finally do it. So we're going to cut that tag end, and we're done. So that basically walks through how I do all my sink tip leaders. We would then loop this knot onto our sink tip. And if you saw my earlier video, the right way is to go over and then bring the whole thing through to get that clean marry up. Hope this has helped. Hope next time you're out on the water, you can put this to use. And as always, if you guys have any questions, come down to the shop, give us a call or leave a comment in the description below, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks.